Welcome back to John Madden Sales. Last video we did with Cherry Cola here was putting a bridle on the young horse for the first time. Today I'm going to go over my basic steps in getting them used to a rider and getting on her for the first time. Okay, so since our bridling video, we have worked on putting the saddle on. The stages that I use in putting the saddle on the horse would be taking the stirrups off the saddle, having her in the stall, putting the saddle on her methodically, saddle pads first, getting her used to that, and then the saddle, the girth, taking everything out of the stall that she could potentially get caught up in if there was something that went awry. Once she was used to that, then we moved on to the grooming stall, tacking up in the grooming stall, again, taking the stirrups off the saddle and making sure there's nothing that she can get hung up on and no additional distractions. And then once she was comfortable with that, I brought her into the pen with the saddle, no stirrups, lunged her with that. She was fantastic. And then she kind of told me she was ready to add the stirrups in. So this, when I put the stirrups back on the saddle, I leave them hanging down, and I try to get them used to the swinging and the distraction of this and have it be a little bit of a desensitizing thing. She was very good about having these here and didn't really mind so much. So now we're on to the process of getting on for the first time. So in this stage, I like to make sure I have a handler always. So this is Kendra. She's going to be keeping charge of Cherry and keeping her occupied. First thing I'm going to do is get her used to the mounting block. I think this is an important step. I let her kind of see it, maybe sniff it, be used to having it kind of around her. I might slam it down a couple times, make sure she's comfortable with that, being in her space. Maybe I'll take that away for the next stages. I also like to make sure that the horse is going to be okay with anything flapping on her sides and noises that could happen when stirrup leathers hit stirrup flaps and when riders hit saddles. So I'm going to take the stirrup, make some noise, see how she reacts to all this, maybe move it around a little bit, maybe flap the reins a little bit. Anything that potentially could happen. You know, we lift the saddle flap up to do our girth while we're riding, so having her be comfortable with this happening is important. Also, making sure we do some of this from both sides. I think we get a little dependent on always doing stuff from the left, so she needs to be comfortable with this flap going up here, touching behind the saddle. Another thing that can make horses nervous is the motion of jumping next to them. So I do like to do this before I start getting on and have them not be nervous and be comfortable about it. This horse, I've done this with her a bunch, so she is comfortable with it now. But dismounting can make horses nervous sometimes, so I like to make sure that they're good with it before I decide to get on, because what if I have to dismount quickly for whatever reason? So I think it's an important step. I'm gonna put it down. I'm gonna get next to her. She's not so much paying attention right now, but she needs to be okay and comfortable with me standing here and being up above their head. Naturally, horses are a little concerned with things that are above their head, mountain lions, things in the wild that could be predatory. So this could be a nerve-wracking thing for a young horse. We want to make sure they're nice and comfortable before we decide to climb on their back. So I might make some noise again with the saddle while I'm up here. Maybe reach over and pet her other side. And then from here, I'm going to start adding a little bit of weight in the stirrups. Now I have my handler here who's kind of responsible for me in a big way, keeping Cherry occupied and also keeping me safe in case something does happen, but I still do want to have my hands on the reins. Important thing to think about when you're getting on a young horse getting on any horse is the placement of your hands when you get on. So I've got my foot in the stirrup, I've got one hand on the pommel, or I like to put the hand just on the opposite side of the pommel. I think it helps displace the weight of the saddle as I try to get on. One hand has the reins, and either you can grab a hold of the mane or just in front of the wither here. You don't want to put your hand on the cantle, because then when I go to lift my leg and put it over the saddle, I'm going to have to move this hand, and then I don't have contact with the saddle anymore, so that's not as safe. So having your hand in the front of the saddle and one literally in front of the saddle on the horse's neck is a better option here. So I'm gonna put a little weight in the stirrup and maybe come off the mounting block a little bit. She's handling that pretty well. I might do this a few times until I really feel like she's 100% comfortable. We've done so. After a few times of putting some weight in the stirrup iron, coming down, if the horse is comfortable with it, I'm going to take the next step with coming up. Maybe I'll reach over and make sure she's okay there. A little bit higher as Kendra kind of distracts her a little bit. I'm going to get myself over her securely in the stirrup iron. Notice I haven't had to take my hands off of my original placement. That's very important. And I'm not in the saddle yet. I'm going to gently sit down. Give her a pat. And success. So once the horse is comfortable and calm, which she is, she's done this a few times with me prior to this, what I'm going to do first stages, I've got the block situated where I'm comfortable. I'm not going to do any big motions of jumping off of her the first couple times. So I'm just going to take my foot out of that stirrup on the outside, and I'm leaving my one foot in the stirrup on the left, so I can methodically get back off of her like I got on her. Carefully make sure you do not kick your horse in this very important phase of dismounting and mounting. That's a great way to have them get nervous and run off. Good. So the first couple times, I'm going to get off and on from the block just like that and get them comfortable. Now I'm going to get back on her, and I'm going to have Kendra kindly take the block and move it behind her somewhere where she's not going to get hung up in it. Now I've done that work with jumping up and down next to her. She should be okay with me getting off. I'm going to try to do this quietly and not land like a ton of bricks. So I'm going to take my feet out of the stirrups. Again, not kicking my horse. Gently hopping down. Notice I never had to take my hands off of her in the saddle, and I'm right here to praise her for being so good. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see more videos from John Madden Sales, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.